Cherry Tomato Trouble. It was a sunny afternoon in a busy kitchen. The air was filled with the aroma of sizzling spices and the clatter of pans. On the dining table in the center of it all, a lone cherry and a plump cherry tomato sat side by side. They had been placed there by the cook, who was busy with the day's prep. "So, how's your day been?" asked the cherry, rolling slightly on its smooth, red surface. "Oh, same old, the cherry tomato replied. "I've spent most of my day getting tossed into salads or squeezed into sauces. I've been making my rounds," the cherry said proudly. "Topping pies, gracing fruit salads. All the sweet stuff." "Must be nice to be so sweet," the cherry tomato said with a wink. "I'm stuck being savory all the time. Never get to be part of dessert." The cherry laughed. "True, but savory's got its charm too." Before the cherry tomato could reply, the door to the kitchen swung open, and in rushed the cook, a young man with flour on his apron, his hands busy chopping garlic and herbs. All right, time to make this new dish," he mumbled to himself, wiping his brow. "Cherries for the glaze. Let's see. Cherries. The cherry and the cherry tomato exchanged a glance, both amused by the cook's frantic pace. "He seems a little flustered," the cherry observed. "Probably a big order coming up," the cherry tomato guessed, watching as the cook grabbed a bowl from the counter. "Isn't he supposed to be, a professional?" the cherry mused. The cook fumbled through the basket, pulling out what he thought were cherries. Without a second thought, he tossed them into a pan of simmering sauce. Wait, you're not cherries," the cherry tomato gasped, realizing what was happening. But it was too late. The cook stirred the pan and turned away to grab more ingredients. Within minutes, the owner of the restaurant stormed into the kitchen. His face was bright red, and his footsteps echoed across the tiles. "Who made this?" he bellowed, pointing at the steaming plate of food on the counter. The cook froze in place. His eyes widened. I did." The owner, hands on hips, looked down at the dish and shook his head with frustration. "What is this? I asked for a cherry compote to complement the main dish. What in the world are these tomatoes doing in here?" "Tomatoes?" The cook was bewildered. I used cherries. I swear, those are cherries." The owner stared at him for a moment, then shook his head. "That, my dear cook, is a cherry tomato, not a cherry. A cherry tomato. You can't just throw things into a dish and hope it works." The cook blinked in shock. "Wait, really? A cherry tomato? But they look exactly like cherries." The owner sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. "Oh my goodness. All right, let's break this down. Cherries are fruits that grow on trees, and they're sweet. Cherry tomatoes, however, are, tomatoes. They grow on vines, and they're, not sweet in the same way. You really thought you could get away with mixing them up?" The cook's face flushed a deep red. "I had no idea. I thought they were the same thing." The owner gave him a stern look. "Clearly not. This isn't a bakery, kid. We can't just toss whatever looks cute onto a plate. Get it together." The cook nodded sheepishly, trying to process the information. "Now, get those tomatoes out of my kitchen," the owner barked. "Yes, chef. I'll fix it right away." As the owner stormed out, muttering under his breath, the cook stood there for a moment, still trying to wrap his head around the fact that he'd mistaken a cherry tomato for a cherry. Once the commotion had calmed down, the cherry and the cherry tomato were alone again on the table, still in the aftermath of the mix-up. The cherry blinked its bright red skin and turned to the cherry tomato. "So, you're not a cherry?" The cherry tomato chuckled. "Nope, not at all. But I'll admit, it's a bit confusing, right? I mean, we both have cherry in our names." "True," said the cherry. "But you're what?" "A tomato, not a stone fruit like me." "Exactly," said the cherry tomato. "I'm actually a member of the Solanaceae family, also known as the nightshade family. You, on the other hand, are a rosacea. Very different. Even if we're both small, round, and red." The cherry was still trying to digest the idea. "Wait, so, when you're not causing chaos in a sauce or salad, what do you get used in, exactly?" "Oh, lots of things," the cherry tomato replied, puffing up slightly with pride. "I'm a star in pasta dishes, roasted veggies, and I'm even found in curry sometimes. I can go both ways, sweet or savory. You, on the other hand, mostly get stuck in desserts, right? Like pies, tarts." The cherry nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. We're a dessert staple." "Oh, And don't forget about cocktails. Cherries go in drinks too. The cherry tomato raised an eyebrow. Really? In drinks? You'd think it would be confusing to mix you up with a tomato. The cherry laughed. Trust me, there's a lot of confusion about that. Ever heard of a dirty martini with a cherry instead of an olive? The cherry tomato snickered. That's hilarious. I'd love to see the look on their face when they take a sip expecting an olive and get a sweet burst of cherry. The two fruits paused, lost in their amusement. You know, the cherry said, it's kind of fun being mistaken for a tomato. Gives me a sense of mystery. Oh, really? The cherry tomato replied. Well, I'm just glad I don't get mistaken for being a vegetable. Being called a tomato has its perks. We're pretty versatile, if I do say so myself. The cook, after his embarrassing blunder, spent the next hour in deep thought. He went online, read a few articles about the differences between cherries and cherry tomatoes, and watched videos about culinary mistakes. He even took a quiz about fruits and vegetables. When he finally returned to the kitchen, he approached the table where the cherry and cherry tomato sat, now in a new light. Well, the cook said sheepishly, looking between them, I guess I've learned my lesson. It's not enough to just go by looks. You two are way more complicated than I thought. The cherry winked. You got it, buddy. But don't worry, you'll remember us next time. Now you know the difference between a cherry and a cherry tomato. The cherry tomato smiled and added, and hey, just remember, I'm the one that's not supposed to be in your dessert. But I'm happy to be in your sauce anytime. The cook chuckled. I'll definitely be more careful next time. No more mistaken identities on my watch. From that day on, the cook became known for his meticulous attention to detail in the kitchen. He learned not only the difference between a cherry and a cherry tomato, but also the subtle art of using each ingredient to its full potential. As for the cherry and cherry tomato, they remained on the dining table, friends, having learned a bit about their own identities in the world of culinary mix-ups. Their shared laughter and new knowledge filled the kitchen with warmth and joy. And so, the kitchen carried on, with the cook a little wiser and the owner a little less angry. After all, even in the world of food, everyone, whether fruit or vegetable, had their own special place.